Daf Nun Aleph Amud Beis. We'll begin Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom. The Gemara continue on with the halachas of minhagim. Amrlei Rabba Bar Bar Chana Levnei. He said to his son, Beni Loiseicha. They discussed before the chalev that was not also min Torah, that in some places they were noig, they had a minhag not to eat this chalev that was part of the extended part of the stomach, on not the curved part of the stomach, but where it goes into a straight line. So he said that Beni Loiseicha, don't eat this chalev, Loi b'fanai v'loi shaloi b'fanai, not in front of me and not shaloi b'fanai, not in my presence. Now he himself ate the chalev. He held that he could eat it, but he said to his son that you can't. Ani sharei says Rabbi Yochanan shachal. I saw Rabbi Yochanan eating it, so I could be soimech on Rabbi Yochanan. Kedai Rabbi Yochanan lismach alai b'fanav u'shaloi b'fanav. Therefore, I can rely on him. It's not my psak. I'm relying on Rabbi Yochanan. I saw him do it, so therefore I can eat this chalev in front of him u'shaloi b'fanav. Atal lo'irei says, but you can't eat it. You didn't see him, so you can't be soimech on Rabbi Yochanan. So you can't eat it not in my presence and not when it's not in my presence, because I'm only relying on Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore I saw Rabbi Yochanan. I can rely on that, but I'm not paskening, and therefore the fact that you see me eating it doesn't mean that you can rely on me, because I'm not paskin. I'm just relying on Rav Yochanan. You didn't see Rav Yochanan, so you can't eat it at all. But it seems to be a stira in Rabbi Baruch himself. The Amar Rabbi Baruch Sachli Rabbi Yochanan ben Elazar. He said, he told me, I went after him into a garden. And he took the svichim of kruv and he ate it. So what are svichim? Svichim are, we in the Shvias and the Shemitah year, that we have the Isser for the planting, the things that, the produce that grows through planting, and the Isser of harvesting, and the Kedusha that has in the Peres of Shvias. But what about things that weren't planted? What about produce that didn't come as a result of planting? It came from seeds that fell off the previous year's harvest, and they grew on their own. Those are called svichim. Now, svichim, it's the way, when we go in Rashi's Pshat, there's many different machlekes in the Rishonim over here, but according to Rashi's Pshat, that svichim after the Zman HaBiur are asa. What is Zman HaBiur? The Torah allows the produce of Shemitah year, you have to be noiged as hefker, but those that were gathered and you now are feeding it to your animals inside your premises, it's mutter to feed it to them so long as there still exists that produce out in the fields for the wild animals, for the chayas. As long as there have that produce in the fields for the chayas, you can feed it to your animals in your premises. But when it's no longer available in the fields for the chayas, for the wild animals, you cannot feed it to your behemoths in your premises. You have to be mevayer it. You have to remove it from your premises. That is beer. Now, as a machlekes rishonim, what exactly beer is? According to the Rambam, it has to be destroyed. After Zman HaBiur, it has to be destroyed. According to Taisus, you just have to be mafker it. You make it hefker, it doesn't have to be destroyed. Beer doesn't mean literally that it's destroyed. According to the Ravid, he has a middle pshat. He says that where locally it's not available, meaning if in the entire country or entire region, as we'll see later in the Gemara, we'll discuss this in more detail. But if in the entire region it does exist, it's just that in your city it doesn't exist, then you have to be mafker. You don't have to destroy it. But if it doesn't exist anywhere in the entire region, which we'll define later what region means, then he agrees with the Rambam that it has to be destroyed. Even svichim after the Zman HaBiur, even svichim, you have to be noyeg the biur with it, and after the Zman HaBiur, it has to be removed. you have to be noig beer with it, and it has to be removed from your premises. Now, kruv, cabbage, is different, because cabbage, really, it exists throughout the entire year, even in the rainy season, since the roots are always there, present in the ground. There always find some leaves of the cabbage. So it is considered to be that it's there, accessible to the chayas in the fields. So strictly speaking, that biur is not noyeg by cabbage. So the shaila is where the noyeg and iser on kruv onto the other svichim. So he says, so we said in this case is, he said he took the svichim kruv, he took the svichim, the kruv, and ate it. The nosan leave omerly, and he gave it to me and said, B'ni b'fonai, in my presence you can eat it, but shaloi b'fonai lo yisayich, but not when it's not in front of me. So in front of me you can eat it, but not when it's not in front of me. So what's the reasoning? He says, Ani Shari says Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Shachal. He said, I saw Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai that ate it, that it was mutter, so I can be samech Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Kedai Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai lismach elo. Befonav ushaloi befonav. I can rely on him. Befonav ushaloi befonav. But ata befonai achal. But you didn't see him. So you can't rely on Rav Shimon ben Yochai ata befonai achal, but you only in front of me you can eat shaloi befonai lo tzayachal, but not when it's not in front of me you cannot eat. So I can rely on him because I saw him eating, and therefore I can rely on that psak, and therefore I can eat it even before shaloi befonai. But you didn't see him, and I'm not paskin him, so therefore you can only eat it. You can only eat it befonai, but not shaloi befonai. So now here we have a stira in what he said before, because previously he said by the case of the chelav, he said Ata loy riso isa loy tzaychu bein befonai bein shaloi befonai, and now here he's saying that it's called panami befonai you can. But shaloi befonai lo tzaychu. So it seems to be a steer. However, there's a machlekes what befonai means. Does it mean actually literally my presence, or the Miri says in my lifetime? But in any event, we see over here that there seems to be a steer. Now the Gemara doesn't answer it. Rav Moshe, he gives it a teretz as follows. He says, how do we answer this stira? He said that when we're talking about, there's a difference between a son and between a talmid. So when we talk in the case of the previous case by the chelev, we were talking about his son. And over here, we're talking about it says, we're not talking about his son. Over here, we're talking about the case that he's talking about a talmid. So he says as follows. He says, the reason that you can eat befonav, over here, the reason that we say that befonav you can eat is because ein mesarven legadol. Meaning, l'chayra, Rav Moshe would be learning that befonav means literally, not like the Meiri, that it is a lifetime. It means mamish literally his presence. It's not muchach, but it would be fit in better if you learn befonai means literally his presence. Meaning, he's saying that really, so you didn't see Rav Shimon ben Yochai, you can't be saimach on psak, and I'm not pas. However, if I'm giving it to you to eat, ein mesarven legadol, so therefore you can eat it befonai. Now, by the case of a son, Rav Moshe says the din of ein mesarven legadol doesn't apply, because the hanhaga is that the son eats, and it's a casual, more intimate relationship. So there's no imposition, and it's not considered a lack of kavod if he refrains or he doesn't want to eat what the father offers him. The situation is much more casual. So therefore, the din of ein mesarven legadol doesn't apply in the case of the son. So therefore, that's how he answers it, that be'etzem right? You can't rely on it, and therefore you didn't see the gadol. You can't rely, and I'm not paskening, so you can. However, in my presence, if there's a halacha of ein mesarvim legadol, you can eat it. But when in a son, that particular halacha does not apply. My Rabbi Shimon, what do we see of Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Shimon Yochai, what's it referring to? We said, I saw Rabbi Shimon Yochai, and it can be Saimach on this time we learn the Brisa Rabbi Shimon. He says, Kol Asvichim Asurim, all the Svichim are Asurim, Chutz Misvichei Kruv, except for Kruv, like we mentioned before, because She'ein Keyoytz Behem Be'er Kasarek. There's nothing like them in the fields. In the fields, that it's always there in the field, so it's different than other kruv. It's different than other svichim. It's always accessible in the fields, and therefore the biur doesn't apply. But chomayrim kol svichim asurim, they say all svichim are asurim, even kruv. So v'tavaya libid Rabbi Kiva, and they're both going according to the sheet of Rabbi Kiva. The Sanya we learn in the Brayz Rabbi Kiva says, the pasuk says, "Hein loy nizr v'loy nesev es tuaseinu." The pasuk says that you might say, you'll come to say that in the 7th year, how are we going to survive? What are we going to eat? We don't plant, and we don't gather, the crops. Amar Rabbi Kiva said, what's this double lashon? He says, we're not going to plant, and we're not going to gather. If they're not going to plant, of course they're not going to gather. If they're not going to plant, why does it have to say, and we're not going to gather in the crops? If they didn't plant, of course there's no plants, there's no crops to gather in. So mikan the svichim shein asurim. So we see from here that svichim are asurim. Why is that? How do we see? Because we're not going to eat. How we're going to eat? We're not planting. So there's no crops as a result of our planting. What can we eat? And we're not going to gather. Meaning, and even that which we don't plant, the svichim which grow, it's the aftergrowth. It grows from the seeds that fall on their own. We didn't plant it. Even that, we're not going to be able to gather. So you see that svichim are asurim. So we're going according to the sheet of Rabbi Kiva that svichim are asurim. So what's the machlokes by kruv? B'may kamiflege rabbanon savre gazrin and svichei kruv atashar svich dal. The rabbanon hold where goes a kruv atashar svich. Really, be'etzem kruv should be mutter because it's always in the field, but it's exera to other svichim. Rav Shimon savar lo gazrin svichei kruv atashar svichim dalma. And Rav Shimon says we're not goyzim. So the Mishnah says that if a person goes from a place to where they work to where they don't work, or where they work where they don't work to where they work, he's bound by the customs, by the minhagim from the place that he left to the place that he's going to. So Bishlama, that the Mishnah says that he says we understand what the Mishnah says, that when you go from a place that they do work Erev Pesach before Chatzos to a place where they don't work, then Noisan Alav, Chomrei Makam Shahal Chasham, then we understand what the Mishnah means, that you have the Chom of the place that you're going to, because even though it says that we say he's going from a place that they do work to a place where they don't, so in his region you could work. But he's going to a place that they don't, we impose on him the churmas of the place that he's going to, and he's not allowed to work. So that we understand. And we understand that the Mishnah says, and a person should not deviate. He should not do differently, because it'll cause a machlekes v'lo love it, and therefore don't work. So we understand that the meaning of the Mishnah. But if he's going from a place where they don't work, to a place where they do work, so then he's going to a place where they do. A person should not deviate from the machlekes, which means what? Then he would have to work. How can that be? And he should work. You just so he's learned. He has to keep the churmas of the place, the city that he left. And in the city that he was in, that he left, they don't work. So how can we say that he goes to this new city and he should work? How can he work? He's now going to be deviating from his local minig. Rabaya Reisha, what it says that he should not deviate from the local custom means it's only referring to the case of the Reisha. It's not referring to this case at all. It's not referring to this case. Rav Amar Yomi Masechet, it is going on this case. Meaning, not that he should work. It means that he doesn't work. When he doesn't work because he has to keep his local custom. Well, what do you mean if he doesn't work? What about the machlokes? No, what it means to say is it's over here. It's not a problem that there's going to be a machlokes. The fact that he doesn't work is not going to be a machlokes. It's not over here that a problem of deviating and causing machlokes. Why is that? My comrade, what would you say? Haray Aimer Malach Hasura? What would you say that people that see that he's not working will interpret it that he's holding that Malach has Asura and he's arguing with this and it's machlokes? No. Meimar Amra Kama Batlana Hava Beshuka. They won't say that. They say there's many people who are Batlanim who don't work. Let's think that he's unemployed, that he doesn't have work. The fact that he's not working is not going to cause a machlokes. If it's a place where a person is working, where people don't work, that's a shina, that's a machlokes. But where people do work and he doesn't work, they won't say it's interpreted that because he holds it's aser. He doesn't have work, so there is no machlokes. There's no shina that machlokes involved in this case. He said that in this case, like by us, that we know when the new moon is, when the new month is. Meaning, we're in a region where the Shluchei Beis have arrived, and we know when the new Rosh Chodesh is. And therefore, we also know when Yontiv is when the exact day of Yontiv, V'yishu lo yavin. We cannot do malacha on a place if we go to a place where the Shluchei Beis have not come, and they don't know when Yontiv is. They haven't been informed when Yontiv is. They have to keep 2 days, al safik. Then we can't do malacha in front of them on the second day of Yontiv in a yishuv. Mipnei shina machlokes, because it will cause a machlokes. Now the way Rashi learns it is that this is a case where they, in their city, they keep 1 day. They're going to a city where they keep 2 days. So they're daitel lachzor, and therefore in front of them you can't do a malacha, but in private you can. Taisus learns that when we say that in front of them or in private, we make that distinction. That's something like by eating. But he says a malacha by its very nature, a malacha is not something that's private. So it can't be considered in private. Therefore, he learns over here, you can't do it at all, even in private. Now, even though in the case of the Mishnah, we were talking about a malacha on Erev Pesach, but here we're talking about a malacha that's involved where there's an Isser D'Oraisa of a malacha. So Taisus learns over here that we cannot do B'yishuv Lo Yavdin, and we don't do it at all. So that's Mibnei Shina B'chol. But B'midbar Mai. But the shaila was, let's say it's not in the Yishuv, let's say it's a midbar, literally a desert, but we learn most for Shen Rabbeinu Dovid learns it's not literally a desert, it means out in an uninhabited area. Can they do it? Amar le'hachi amar rab, Yishuv also by midbar muter. The Yishuv is also, but in the midbar it's muter. Many of the Achronim ask the kasha over here that, well, they're going to a place where the Shluchei Beis in their city, the Shluchei Beis have arrived. So they knew when Rosh Chodesh was. They're going to a place where they haven't arrived. Well, why would the Shluchei Beis arrive? I mean, if they were able to go and travel and arrive there before Yontiv, why weren't the Shluchei Beis able to do it? The Rashash answers, and he bases on the Taisus, that we're talking not on Pesach, for instance. For instance, in a case where you would have where on Pesach, you would be able, the Shluchei Beis would be able to arrive on Pesach, even to this city. They would be able to arrive on Pesach, but on Sukkot, they wouldn't. Now, why would that be? Because on Sukkot you have 3 days less of travel. You have 2 days Rosh Hashanah and you have Yom Kippur. So there's 3 days less of travel. So on Sukkot, the Shluchei Beis Din would not be able to arrive in time to inform them. So for Sukkot, they would have to keep 2 days. So in Pesach, in Pesach, they would arrive on time, and they did arrive on time, but they kept 2 days Pesach, because since they had to keep 2 days on Sukkot, they kept 2 days on Pesach. So that's the case over here. And therefore, we're talking in a case where on Pesach, really, they did know when the Yontiv was, but they kept 2 days Pesach, because since they had to keep 2 days Sukkot, they kept 2 days Pesach as well. So that's based on Rosh Hashanah, based on the Taisus and Sukkot. So therefore, they from their city, when they came from their city, Rav Safra and Rav Abba, they from their city, they knew both Sukkot and Pesach. So they Iker don't have to keep 2 days on Pesach. So that was the shail over here. Now they're coming to the city where they do keep 2 days. Why do they have to be noyeg?